I'm recording. Yep. Thank you. Yes, please. Always, if I interrupt me, like, hey, you started recording, please do so. Oh man, we can ask a question. Kevin, are you there? No. All right. Daniel, what's unique about a class? How is a class different than a function, or an object, a class object different than a function?
A class is going to have multiple methods within it that you can call over a function just in a single operation.
Okay. True. Yep. That is 100% correct. A class can contain multiple methods associated with it. What else is unique about a class object?
Class is the framework for the functions can use to serve variables.
Serve variables.
Store
variables. So a class can store variables.
For functions.
So a class has variables that be instance variables. So you're getting to it. A class object can store data about itself. That's what kind of makes it unique versus just a method. It's just a set of instructions. It doesn't have any. It doesn't like a basic method or a basic function doesn't have like a conscious about. It's just there. It's just whatever. Where a class knows things about itself. So like Justin is a person. I can ask him questions, which would be considered like methods, and I can retrieve information from him. Your name, your favorite ice cream, stuff like that. So that's what a class object is. It can store instance variables or information or data about itself. So it makes it kind of unique. So let's go. I'm going to create touch, couch, building, OOP review, .py, code OOP review. So what's another object we can use? We can use a building. Like let's create a class building. And what kind of information can we store from in a building? We can store, the name of the building. So like this building is an object. It knows that we can extract data from it. We know its name. We're in the National Building in Chicago. We'll know people. We might know how many floors it has. We know how many occupants, like how many businesses could be in here. We know a bunch of stuff like that. What else can we know?
The zone.
Yeah, the zone. Yeah, commercial. Perfect. We know about a commercial, residential building, a condo, apartment building. So we can do. Alex, what does the init dunder method do?
That it gives you the variables, like store variables for your class.
When is it ran? When does this dunder init method? When does it actually execute?
When you're for a specific instance.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so it executes when you create an instance of it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yep. So this dunder init executes every time you initialize or instantiate a new instance of itself, or a new instance. So a building can take in a name, a type, let's see, number 2 occupants.
Tom?
Yep.
Is it possible to do like nested classes? For example, let's say you have building, floor, and then on the floor you do how many rooms or on that floor?
Yes, but it wouldn't be nested like another class floor. It wouldn't look like that.
Okay.
It essentially, there's a way in which it's called like inheritance, where you're able to declare or call classes within another class. But it wouldn't be like necessarily a nested class. because I think in Ruby, I don't know. In Ruby, do they have nested classes? Do you know? Like, is it? No. Okay. Total name, type, occupants. So, and then we can do self.name equals name. Self.type equals type. Self.occupants equals occupants. So let's declare the occupants as just an array, a default as an array. So let's create the national building. National, what is it? National equals building. National. And it's a type, it's a commercial building, right? Would this be considered a commercial building? So. And let's print the national building. ls python oop review building object. What is this hash? It's memory. Yep. The location of where it's the location in memory. And I want to just like print information about this. Print info, which all I wanted to do is print f. This is the self.name. So I can call self.name. It gives me access. It gives me access to all the instance variables. That's why we pass in the first argument as self. Building. And it's used for commercial or self.type. Type. And it has how many occupants? Self.occupants. I just want to see what this looks like. Down here, I created a new building instance named national. The name of the building is national, and its a type is commercial. So national dot print info. I need to invoke that. Come down here in the terminal. I'm going to clear the terminal. I'm going to Python. Let's go up one. Review. This is the national building, and it's used for commercial use. And it has an empty array occupants. That's not going to work, but we'll figure that out. Now, I'm going to create a method that adds occupants to it. Just by name, def, add new occupant. Takes in self, always has the first argument, and then occupant name. So I want to add new occupants. So how do I add a new occupant to occupants? I can, so I can append to the occupants array. Self.occupants.append occupant name. Let's see this work. I'm going to comment that out for right now. And I want to add a new occupant. National dot add new occupants to code Platoon. And then I want to print the info. See what happens. Down here in the terminal, I'm going to run the print. So right now, I'm adding a new occupant. It takes in one argument, which is the name of the occupant, and I probably should return something. Return occupant. So if I wanted to grab, if I append to the occupant array, and I just want to return the occupant name, I can just do occupant name, or yeah, let's see what that looks like. Let's do, can I return print? Or is that going to throw an error? Occupant name added to the self name building. See if this works. So if I add a new occupant, expected output should return print. I don't know if that's going to work because I don't know if you can. Down here, Platoon added to the national building. Great. But I don't want to, let's do capitalize. Does that work? Code Platoon added, crap, but whatever. Cool. Now let's actually print the info, see what that looks like. Clear. Platoon add to the national building. This is the national building, and it's used for commercial use, and then it has an array occupants. So how do we grab the length? So the number of occupants would just be the length of this array. All right. As one occupants, so like that, the language there isn't necessarily that great. It says, does that work in Python? Ternary work in Python the same as it does in JavaScript?
It kind of does. You say, print your statement if your condition else.
So it's like else, like that?
No.
Like if some condition.
What is your first condition?
So
You
if
want to print all of that, you have to print all of that. Outside of that, if outside of your print statement.
Interesting. I was just curious. Nice. All right. Clear. This is the national building, and it's used for commercial use and has one occupant. I just want to actually print national. I want to do that. I want to print the occupants. The occupants. National dot oc. Platoon. Add a few more. Hilton. What else is in here? Rework. There we go. What is it? What's the spot hero? So Platoon added to the national building, Hilton had added, Spot Hero added, and then it's just what questions do you have regarding object-oriented programming? Move occupant self, occupant name. So it's, how are we going to remove an occupant name?
You have to create a new.
So, well, so first we have to like see what if it doesn't exist? The occupant. So We can do like for, no, we can't do for in self occupants. I'm going to print the element. So it should really be occupant. So I'm going to do down here, national, remove occupant, invoke it. I'm going to do, I always do that. Thank you. Move occupant through Venmo. See what happens. All right, we have all that, but no errors. So for occupant and self occupants, if is there how do we search through this? The array to see whether or not this exists or not. Does that work? So if occupant name in self.occupants, does that work?
Let's try it.
Anyway, do you kind of like understand? So if it exists, you would then remove it, find the index and just remove it. We don't have to go through the logic of this because it's not necessarily related to object-oriented programming, but I don't want to take up more time. What questions do you have about class objects and what you can and can't do?
Do you ever not use the self, or do you always have self dot?
So the self dot is related to instance variables. So I can create a local variable, like new occupant. I can say like occupant name. This would be a local variable that's only confined. You only have access to this local variable within this method. So you can have variables that don't have self in it. That's the difference between an instance variable and a local variable. But if I wanted access to this new occupant in, say, the remove occupant, I would need to call it self. And that's declaring a new instance variable. Now I have access to this throughout the application, or throughout the object.
Do you know if this does self dot in Python work the same way that this dot works in Java?
I can't speak to Java, but I'm sure it does. Because this is also in JavaScript, and it operates the same. So this dot in JavaScript is pretty much the same as self dot in Python. To delete
creating instances of the class.
Should you remove them? Or just leave it like that? So like remove this instance, you can. So in next week when we get into more OOP, you're going to be actually saving instances in an array. So you get a school, and then so next week. So say you have a class school, and then within that def init self, at some point you're going to have like a self dot students, which is going to be an array, and within this array you're going to actually have classes of students, or instances of students. So in here you're going to have a bunch of like student. And then you can loop through each student and have access to the methods that are in here.
So is that the inheritance that you were talking about?
No. So inheritance is where, so my methods in building can also be used in another class. So this new occupant can be used in another class outside of building. We're going to cover that later, but it's not necessary for now.
Okay, but so I'm sorry. Can you go back down, please?
Yep.
So those student objects would actually just be the class defined on line 33.
It would actually be a student. So each one of these would be a student instance, like Tom and Noah. So in here would be an instance of a student.
Okay, so like you would just put Tom dot first name.
Yeah.
If you wanted to access the first name. Okay, I get it now.
So you can loop through this and do Tom.name. It's like name. Name, stuff like that. We're going to get into that a little more next week. But, yeah. It's all about object-oriented pretty much here throughout. So we get into Django. You'll be doing object-oriented programming.
Should you return all instance methods, or is there a time where you wouldn't want to return it?
I think you should return pretty much every time. Like return print, sorry. Yeah. Or if you don't want to actually, you can always just like return. But yeah. I'm going to stop the recording.